If you click on Toxo Sensor, you're going to learn interesting things about your body's ability to neutralize certain toxins. In the introduction, you can read up on the concept, and essentially works on the premise that we're exposed to a number of different toxins that can somehow get into our body and really negatively affect our health. And these might be inhaled, they might be absorbed through the skin, or we might take up these toxins through contaminated food. And because these toxins can be so detrimental to our health, we have a number of genetic defense mechanisms where certain genes have evolved to protect us, to recognize these toxins, to remove them from the body and protect us from the negative effects. And if you click on your summary of effects, you will see the different sections. So it's actually a very big section where there are different toxins and different genes that protect you from these. So the first section is oxidative stress. So when your body converts energy from one form to another, it requires oxygen, which is also one of the reasons why if you go jogging, your breathing increases, because you need to convert more energy, you need more oxygen to do this conversion. The problem is that a byproduct of this metabolism are small molecules called free radicals. And these free radicals are damaging your tissues. They actually cause a chain reaction. So one free radical damages one molecule or one part of a cell, and that then damages another part. And so the tissues of your body are damaged. And because this is such a critical problem in cells, we have certain genes that protect us from different kinds of free radicals. And first, in this section, we essentially tested your oxidative stress in cells, which means the more of your genes that are defective, the higher your oxidative stress is, because the more free radicals your body is going to be exposed to. So if you're up here, you have a higher oxidative stress, and if you're down here, your genes are likely to work normally and protect you from this. Now, the good thing is that if your genes are not working in the way that they should, there's another way of protecting yourself against free radicals, and those are so-called antioxidants, which are substances in food, or they can also be taken as supplements, that can also grab onto free radicals and neutralize them before they can do any damage. So depending on the level of your oxidative stress, you might need higher amounts of antioxidants, free radical inhibitors, or normal amounts. So in this case, it's somewhere in the middle, but you might be in the normal range or in the higher range. Now, there's also one antioxidant called coenzyme Q10. It's also present in a lot of beauty creams because it is a very powerful, very potent antioxidant. And since free radicals are one of the main reasons for aging, it is used in beauty products to protect the body from free radicals. And the problem is that coenzyme Q10 itself is not active in the body. It first needs to be recognized by a certain protein coming from a gene. It's called NQO1. And if this protein recognizes coenzyme Q10, it chemically transforms it to ubiquinol. And ubiquinol is a very potent active antioxidant. Now, some people have genetic variations in this gene, which means that they cannot recognize and convert or activate coenzyme Q10. So in these cases, taking coenzyme Q10 is not recommended because it's very expensive and it does not actually help in protecting against free radicals. So depending on the results here, we might either recommend coenzyme Q10, as it is a very powerful antioxidant, or higher doses of other antioxidants to balance out this lack of protection through coenzyme Q10. And finally, there is the trace element selenium. And selenium is present in certain types of food. And there are proteins in our body called selenoproteins, which means that for them to be built and to be active, to carry out their role, they require selenium. And there is a selenoprotein called GPX1, which is also very effective in grabbing onto certain free radicals and protecting you from them because it neutralizes them. It is a selenoprotein, and a certain amount of people have a genetic variation in this gene, which means that it's this protein is still being produced, however, it is less effective. And scientists have found out if you increase the amount of selenium, you can boost the activity of the modified protein, and you can counteract the effect of this genetic variation. So if you don't have this genetic variation, the normal amount of selenium is sufficient, and if you have this genetic variation, having higher amounts of selenium will boost the activity of the changed protein, and you will still have the protection. So depending on where this bar is, you might need higher or lower amounts of selenium. Now, the second part of the Toxo sensor is looking at phase 1 detoxification. So while the first part that we looked at has to do with aging and damage of the tissues, this part has to do with cancer, because there are certain substances that can cause cancer in our body, and there are certain genes that can recognize them and neutralize them from the body. And these are ashes, smoke, soot. So smoking causes some of these substances to enter our body. Grilled or charred food, where you get a black surface on your food. And these substances can cause cancer, and there are certain genes that can protect us from this. And your bar might be here in the effective section or in the ineffective section, and depending on where your bar is, you have a better or worse protection from these substances. What this means is if you're a smoker and your bar is up here, smoking is going to do you a lot more harm than it would do others. It does not mean that if you're down here, smoking is not unhealthy for you. It's still very unhealthy. But if you're up here, then smoking is a significantly higher risk to your health than it is for most others. And depending on the genes above, you will here find the detoxification capacity for ashes, soot, and smoke. Then the next section is phase 2 detoxification, and this is all about substances, chemicals, herbicides, pesticides that are sometimes found in food that reach into your body, and certain genes can recognize them and remove them from the body. So if you're down here, you're quite effective in detoxifying these chemicals, and if you're up here, your body is not so effective, and then you should avoid herbicides and pesticides, meaning that you should prefer organic food because it uses none of these herbicides and pesticides. You should also try to avoid exposure to industrial chemicals, insect repellent sprays, and so on. And there are also heavy metals, and the most common ones are lead, cadmium, and mercury. And these heavy metals can also reach your body through certain types of food, like sea fish or shellfish. Shellfish are filter feeders, so they filter contaminated water and accumulate a lot of these heavy metals. And if your body is not able to remove them from your body, you might experience heavy metal toxicity. And finally, there are certain substances where your body might react differently than other people's bodies. And one of these substances is alcohol. So while everyone is at a certain risk of developing alcohol dependence, certain genetic variations might increase or decrease the risk, and you will find your own risk here. And the next one has to do with illicit drugs. Certain children, if they're exposed to cannabis smoke, might experience an 11-fold risk of developing schizophrenia later on in life if they have a certain genetic variation. So this means not every child is at the same risk of mental health problems, but certain children have a higher risk of developing schizophrenia, 11-fold higher risk, if they're exposed to cannabis smoke before the age of 16. So of course, even if the genes are in the normal range, it should not be recommended to let your child use illicit drugs. but you should be aware that your child might be at a significantly increased risk. And finally, caffeine is broken down differently in certain people. This is why some people can drink a coffee before going to sleep, and other people cannot sleep anymore. So depending on how fast your caffeine breakdown is, your body might be more sensitive to caffeine. You might have stronger and longer effects of caffeine than other people. Now, if you then go to the section of prevention, you will get personalized prevention based on your genetic profile. So read through this. It will tell you how to handle your sensitivity to heavy metals, polyaromatic hydrocarbons, so the cancer-causing agents, and so on. So to read through this, and it will give you some lifestyle change recommendations of how best to handle your body's possibly impaired detoxification capacity.